Hi, I'm Craig Fraser, and this is
Chris Arpin.
Yes, and we're here for another installment of the Createx Colors videos of doing cosplay stuff and painting things that aren't painted, which is kind of redundant. But anyway, what we got this time around, following our Star Wars theme, is, ooh, most people are like, oh, look, it's Nerf gun. Those of you that are in the know, no, it's an E5 blaster. So this one is 3D printed by a good friend of mine, Walter Cosito from Counts Customs over in Las Vegas. And it is not totally complete. My favorite, I love it when I get a 3D part and another part. And then I'm like, and where does this go? You know, there's some nerd out there going, oh, that's this accumulator, which goes on the back side right there, like that. So that's where it goes. We're going to glue that on later. We're also missing a little part right here and a part that goes right there. Now, or it fell off and then it never came in the box or something. We're going to go ahead and make that. So instead of calling up Walter, having him 3D print it and ship it to us, I'm going to make this little part here out of Sculpey. And we'll show you how to do that. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to show the prep on this. Luckily, there's hardly any bistructures whatsoever left on this. It's already been assembled. Walter assembled this. And you can tell two different print machines are being used. Both of them were done in filament print. And we're going to be prepping this, cleaning it all up, getting some of the loose parts off of it, and then we're going to be painting it. Why don't you describe a little bit what you're going to be doing right off the bat with this?
I'm actually going to do kind of the same thing if you guys saw the other video that we had in terms of just sanding off any kind of leftover edges. Kind of like the same thing like Craig had referred to before. If you get a model, if you were familiar when you were a kid, you're doing models and you had all those extra plastic trees that were basically part of that. Mm-hmm. We just want to go and clean up all the edges, all these detail lines, not sand too hard, but just get rid of the stuff that you really don't want to have on here. So we're just going to use an assortment of sandpapers, a couple different blocks. We have kind of covered that in another video too, but just kind of making your own sanding blocks, your own material to just help alleviate some of those edges that you want to. And nothing crazy. We're probably going to start with 220 and work that up to about a 320 scratch because our sealers that we have will fill that 320 scratch with no problem. So you don't want to go super aggressive to the point where you're going to have to gouge everything because you're just going to make more work for yourself. And we also have like an air dry spot putty and a couple different fillers that we'll use. This is a single component, so you don't have to have a hardener, and it actually sands incredibly easy. It's something that a lot of painters actually hate in terms of body work, but for this, again, because we're using water-based products, there's not going to be any kind of a reaction or bleeding because the water won't react with that. So it's a great product to use. Again, just maybe little details, edges that you want to clean up. So we're going to get that started and
now, one thing we need to understand on this is we need to have an idea of what we're going to do in the end with this. Is this going to be like a presentation rifle where, because you see the type of rifles where the stormtroopers are all carrying them and they're all perfectly glossy white, and then we have the ones that are a little bit more thrashed. This one's going to be seriously battle damaged. We're going to make this one where there's literally, if there was any paint on it, it's gone. It's going to be mostly silver. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the Quicksilver product on that. So now what kind of base we put on that? As far as sealer goes, we're going to come in and use most likely the black sealer. And the reason we're going to do that is that I want areas to appear dark in the recessed areas where we don't hit it with a lot of the Quicksilver. Plus I want to hit it with the Quicksilver and then we'll go over and scuff it and then we'll knock it back and we'll get black scratches. If we went over white and we scuffed it, we get white back. I don't want that. So I want this to have a dirty thrash look. May even come in with a little bit of illustration decay or some dirt track candy, and we'll come in and just add some dirt and stains to it like it's just been thrashed. Where we'll do some muzzle staining around here, you know, from the heat damage, and then just general scuff. I may have a little bit of color I put down in here just to show that there was some paint that's long been worn away. That kind of stuff's more cool. Now, I've done those and people say, oh, that looks so badass. It's also a lot easier. If I had to make this a perfect presentation piece, it would be more body work than it would be paint time, and it'd be very, very difficult.
Very tedious.
And also, it's rarely required. Most people love the battle stain stuff. I've got a Stormtrooper a set of TK armor at home. I'm not going to make it all perfect. I'm going to make it battle damage. I'm not going to go, I was tempted to go zombie, but I'm going to go just battle damage. Next one's going to be zombie. So anyway, I can't think of anything else except for actually let you start doing the fun part. Sanding, and I get to do the boring, tedious part of airbrushing. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get going, and I'll let him play with that. When we come back, you'll see Chris sanding. Exciting. Okay, we're back, and we've gone over this, the whole blaster with some 220? 220, yeah. And while sanding it, a little rivet popped off. right here. I got it very small. It's in my hand. So I saved the rivet. I'm going to glue it back on later, and it went right there. And that's when I realized, wait a second, there's some holes here and here that look very similar to the hole here. No rivet, no rivet, no rivet, no rivet. And I also, remember I was talking about there was a piece missing on the front we're going to actually make. And this part came off. I'd like to say I did it on purpose so I could sand properly, but it just came off. It needs to be glued in. I'm glad, because otherwise it'd be really tough to paint that area. This part also came off. Yes, I am a palooka. I break things. But it made it a lot easier to sand around there. And we've got some inclusions. We've got an area right here that actually started to splinter a little bit because it was like dry. I think it just had some fails in this one area during the print. So I'm going to have Chris take over because he's got the rubber gloves on. And he's going to use some of this glazing putty. Yep. And we're not using the red nitro stain stuff because it lives up to its name. It stains. And we don't need that. We don't really need to worry about a non-catalyzed putty on this because this is not an automotive car with solvent-based paint. It's going to be water-based, so we're not going to have an issue with reactivation. But just show how you can use this over the sanded surface. This is just a, I mean, who makes this product?
It's actually from Spies Hecker.
Spies Hecker, nice, okay.
And it's just a, like Craig said, it's an air-dry product. So it's no hardener, just an air catalyst essentially, which gives you a little bit longer working time.
Now, you wearing the gloves because it's a skin irritant, or are you just a puss?
I just don't like to get my hands dirty.
You're a puss. No, so, okay, no big deal. I understand that. See, me,
I'm wearing gloves because we sanded this, and I don't want to get grease and all.
Yeah, you know, the day my hands are clean, you're putting me in that suit that has no back.
Exactly.
So, you can do the math on that one.
Yes.
Anyway, so this will take about how long to dry?
This, depending on how thick you put it on, which you should not put it on thick, just like most products, you want to build it up in slow, like layers. 20 minutes to a half an hour before it's really dry enough for you to sand, and it should actually sand extremely well. It actually sands like, you know, like joint compound, like sheetrock compound. It sands very nice and smooth. So we'll be able to hit it with a little bit of 320 and then finish it off in 400, which is going to be a perfect finishing grit for our Autoborn sealer, which is what we're going to use to get this guy all dialed in. We're going to hit this whole thing
with a black Autoborn sealer, and because we're going to do the whole thing with a Quicksilver on top and then do different type of textures. We might add some worn paint. Unlike if we're doing worn paint, I'm going to add that later. I'm not going to paint the whole thing and then wear the paint away. I'm actually going to render it to look like it's worn. You can do it that way if you want. We like real patina. Oh, I like fake.
I like that.
And then we'll probably put a little bit back here to get rid of that little spiral action going back there. We don't want to go too far on this gun. I'm actually going to be, I think we're going to use a little bit of a stipple trick when we're spraying the sealer, and probably purposely not reduce the sealer down that much. I want it to spit. I want to create a texture on this to kind of look like the corroded metal, and it'll also kind of hide some of the inclusions already in there. Now, remember I made the comment about the missing rivet, which I found right here, and then the 4 that weren't on there. I'm going to make those out of Scopy. Now what Scopy is, it's a type of clay. You can buy air dry, you can be a catalyzed. I like the one that you can bake. And so we're going to basically just sculpt out some pieces for this, and then bake them in a little toaster oven, and sand them, get them all prepped, paint them, glue them on here. I know, it's going to taste even better now. So it's not my toaster oven, it's a vacuum baker. I'm using your toaster oven. But I just want to show you that, can we 3D print those? Yes, we could. My son's 3D printer and Walter's 3D printer who did this is all the way back in Vegas and in Bakersfield or Vegas. We need this soon. I can sculpt something, 15 minutes in the oven, it's done.
Done deal.
And then 15 minutes cooling time, paint it, and it's ready to go. Am I going to make the entire blaster out of Super Sculpey? You could. You can also clean the entire bathroom with a toothbrush, but only if you're in the Army. So we're not going to do that. But I want to show you how you don't need to use the 3D printer on everything. Some of the old school techniques still work really, really good. Matter of fact, I like the old school techniques because I'm old. It works. You know, I was there. But we're going to use a couple of those. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to we'll glue all these parts back on, but we'll probably paint them separate, just because it'll be tough to get into areas where those parts are covering up. So these will all be painted separate, and the rivets though I'll probably stick on there before we do some final painting. But before we do the sealer, so we're going to use black sealer on this. Do you think it'd be good to come in and hit the whole thing with some 4050 adhesion promoter, or do you think the sealer itself would be fine on top of this PLA print?
I think the sealer itself would be okay. I mean, we put a good tooth. I mean, honestly, when in doubt, we always do recommend the 40-50 because it does, and that's the gloss, the 40-50 only. It has the best adhesion because there's no real filler or any other pigment in it. So, I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt to do maybe like a medium tack coat.
The reason I was saying it is we've got three different prints here, and so 3 different materials.
Exactly.
And so I know for a fact the black has no issue. I do not use the white. And so I think it'd just be safe to just, we'll give everything, plus that black sealer may look different on the white than it does this if it's not adhesion or drying the same. So if we hit it all with 40-50, we're giving it a homogeneous coat that then will act as a tooth. So showing how the 40-50 is not just a binder, it's not just a balancing clear, it's not just a top clear, it is also an adhesion promoter.
It's a great adhesion promoter.
Yeah, it's excellent.
So, and actually, again, just so you guys can see, the entire time that we've been talking here, I just keep mixing and putting more material on. So this is kind of the
if this was catalyzed, you'd already
had to scrap it, mix it,
re-stirred it up and put it on there. It also will sand easier. I'm saying just this and this will look more like your polish. It'll be okay. The other parts that we can leave more. There's a funky pattern that it looks like it was done intentionally on the grip, but we're going to leave it because a grip of a gun will tend to have a pattern anyway in it, you know, for grip. There's a couple other pieces I noticed are missing from this gun, not because they were left out, just because the designer on this may not include them. I may make those as well, but we'll throw those on there. I want to give credit is due. I've already mentioned Walter Cosida did the 3D print on this in Vegas, and then the blaster is actually from Droid Division on Facebook, which is a group that has, you know, you can go on Facebook and go online and find tons and tons of different prints that you can then download and then print out things from. So I always want to give credit to who did the actual program and then who did the actual printing. And then, of course, thank you, Createx, for giving us a place to do the actual painting. But you guys get to hang this up in your, you got cool stuff in your office. And I was like, man, I got to bring some stuff home with me. So yeah, you've got the Boba Fett helmet. And then and now you got the blaster, and then I'm bringing that IG-11, so I'm going to get the whole body. We'll have the whole thing going on there. So anyway, he's going to keep on doing that, get it all sanded, and then what we'll do is right before we come back to spray the 40-50 on it, and then we'll come back for that, and then after that it's black and then silver, and then we start doing patinas on it. Is that anything else? Did I forget anything?
I think that's good. I think we got it all. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see you guys.
See you in the next step. Okay, you've gotten everything all sanded on this blaster and all prepped out. And I see you've got the parts hung here, and then we got our 2 lollipops here.
Two little lollipops.
You got to paint those up. And why don't you tell everyone in video land what you're going to be painting it with?
We're going to actually, like we said, we're going to use our 40-50. So I have 40-50 mixed just around 15%. I'm spraying it through an LPH 80, which is a great gun. It's a smaller project. So I went a little bit higher, a little 5% more, just because the 40-50 is a little bit thicker on the thick side. So just about 15% reducer. We let that sit for about 10-15 minutes. And we got it mixed in nice, and we are ready to spray. We basically finished, sanded all of these areas with between 320 and 400. So we're good to go, wiped down, tacked off, and we're ready to put probably 2 coats, maybe just 2 medium kind of tack coats.
You don't want to get too wet because it might get drippy in some areas.
We don't want everything to flow and start moving. There's a lot of detail that we want to keep, especially around the rivets and the tighter areas. And all we're really trying to do is actually just to use this as an adhesion coat. We're actually not trying to flow anything in or anything like that. So,
and we're actually going to let sit tonight.
Yeah,
and then tomorrow we'll put the black sealer on it.
Exactly.
They want to really lock up good. Because I don't know, we might be doing some masking on it, and the last thing you want is anything to be lifting. So, and plus this is going to be bashed around if it's going to be a prop gun or cosplay. We want it to be pretty tough, and that's definitely what the 40-50 does. So I'm going to step back and let you start spraying. Okay, now got all the gun all good and 40-50, let dry overnight. That's our main adhesion promoter on this. So what Chris is going to do is you're going to come in and just hit it with black sealer.
Black sealer.
Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to get a nice even coat of black sealer on there, and then we're going to let it, we're going to maybe force dry it, and then we're going to come back in and take a little piece of cardboard or something, put it in front of the gun, and we're going to stipple, because I want there to be actually a stippling on it that we're going to translate as corrosion. Not big chunks everywhere. I don't want it to be even. Two reasons. I want this to look thrashed gun. Also, the stippling is going to hide the fact that there is probably another 10 hours of body work we can do on this to make it look like a presentation model. But this one is definitely one that was left behind by a stormtrooper that is no longer with us. And then we have, don't forget, our two little dudes on the popsicle sticks we need to paint up. I will later be making the little Sculpey pieces for the parts missing on here and just add some stuff on. Those will be painted separately and thrashed and glued on separately. So that's about it. I will leave you to it. All right.
Okay guys, we are back. The first coat is dry. So we did one coat, just kind of a coat and a half, we call it, of black sealer over everything. Make sure we got all our edges and all our reveals, all those inside lines that we want to cover with black. And this is totally dry, and which is kind of key for this next effect to work, because if it's still a little bit wet, what's going to happen is the overspray that we're creating, that texture with this, is going to kind of melt back into that wet sealer. So you want it to be totally dry. And for this, we actually played around with a couple different options, and we opted to have this little plastic piece that we're going to use. And actually, one of the things that we figured out worked the best was actually resting the horns of the spray gun right on the shield. Because what you want to do is you're creating this just overspray. Almost looks like rubberized undercoating out of an aerosol can. We're trying to get that random texture. So we actually choked up a little bit on the air pressure, turned it down a little bit. I'm probably right around like below 10 psi. And we're just going to kind of go ahead and spray this to just create that raised, kind of a rusted, corroded texture. You can see as it's spraying off the edge, I'm getting these droplets. I'm not sure how well this is going to look on camera, but it's just really, actually, like I said, it creates something similar like a clogged can of rubberized undercoat, where you have these little droplets of paint. Another thing that would work really well too is actually not reducing your paint, letting it stay a little bit thicker, so you have that consistency. You want that body to sit on the surface instead of flowing back out.
Okay, we've got the gun and the E5 blaster, and all the components have been sitting overnight, which was needed because we really honked on the black sealer, and Chris, we did the texture on it. You can see a lot of the splatters and dots on there, and I wanted that. I want this to have a very thrashed, corroded look to it, because otherwise we would have spent about 100 hours of the body working on all the texture in this. So I figured, hey, you know, you got texture? Go with it. So the first thing I'm going to do on this, I'm not going to scuff it or anything. I don't need to. This is rough enough for the Quicksilver to stick to. It's not been 48 hours, so it's not fully cured, so therefore the Quicksilver will have no problem adhering to it chemically. And I have all the parts here I'm going to do now. The little small components I was going to make and bake and attach on here, haven't done that yet, but I can always do those separately and later on. I want to get this thing done a certain level, and then I'll figure out what parts I need to make for it. Because I may actually end up leaving some of the rivets alone, and then that one piece up front, once I make it, and we'll get it all glued together. But I'll deal with that later. Not going to deal with that right now. So just to use a small piece here, the one barrel that's been just attached, I got the Quicksilver in my brush. If you put it in the brush, make sure you shake the bottle up really good, and then make sure you shake the airbrush up really good, because it does settle. Do not add reducer. You don't need to. And then spraying it just lightly. It very quickly takes on a metal sheen, and I can see the texture now. Okay, very cool. Let that dry a little bit. Yeah, I'm not worried if I lay it down and get something on it. It's like, it's gonna be thrash looking. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, Quicksilver. If you go really lightly with it, it gives a black chrome look. Now, this is not the best reflective use of Quicksilver. To do that, you're going to want to use a gloss black. We do have a gloss black here at Createx. You want to go over the gloss black to make sure that it has a really high reflectivity. We want a reflectivity of like old metal. This will give it right now. Matter of fact, you can even see it almost wants to kind of reflect back at it, but just a little bit of that Quicksilver and it looks like it's aluminum. It really is, if you think about it. You know, you said it looks like it's aluminum coated or it's anodized. We're spraying 6061 aluminum micropigment. When the carrier agent evaporates, all that's left behind is 6061, T6 aluminum, billet aluminum. So it is. We're kind of like coating this with aluminum. This one I actually like the texture on because it was going in a certain direction. So it even has already a really cool, just coarse, like, you know, metal grain effect. So I'm stoked on that. I don't want to, I wish the whole gun had that in the right direction, but that would be a perfect world. We don't live in that. So let's come in and start hitting the main body of the gun. Now I'm going to actually take a little break and turn the booth on. So we're going to have some booth noise for a little bit because we're going to start gassing this place out and getting the silver over the cameraman and he'll be very upset by it. So let's get the booth going and I'll keep on spraying this.